The taxi stops at the curb, and I step out slowly with my small suitcase. Evening light sits on the roof like warm honey. I stand there for a second to catch my breath. The doctor said I should not live alone for a while after the scare, and David said, "Of course, Mom, come." His message was short and kind. It sounded like my son. So I came. The front door opens before I ring. Melissa fills the doorway in a tight smile that does not touch her eyes. "You made it," she says, voice bright and hard. She does not reach for my suitcase. I roll it inside myself. The living room smells like new candles and fake vanilla. Pictures of the wedding hang on the wall. None of me. "David's still at work," she adds, looking at the clock even though we both know what time it is. I cleared the small room near the laundry. "It's practical." "Thank you," I say. I mean it. Any roof is better than being alone after the hospital. But the word small stays in my ear like a bee. She leads me down the hall. The room has a narrow bed and a metal rack for clothes. No nightstand, no lamp. A folded blanket sits at the foot of the bed like a towel in a motel. I place my blue folder under the pillow and put my suitcase on the rack. It groans. "I'll start dinner soon," Melissa says. We eat early. David has a lot going on. Then she leaves without asking how I feel. I sit on the edge of the bed and press my palm to my chest, counting breaths like the nurse taught me years ago. In, out, steady. I tell myself not to look for softness in a person who has never offered it to me. Melissa is efficient, neat, always right in her own head. I am a guest, I remind myself. Be light. Take little space. David comes home as the sun slips away. I hear his quick steps and his laugh, the one he uses when he wants peace. "Hey, Mom," he says, leaning around the door. His hair is messy from the wind. He kisses my forehead. "How are you feeling?" "Better to see you," I say, and it is true. He smells like rain and old paper. He glances at the small room, and I see a flicker of worry, but it passes when Melissa calls him to the kitchen. We sit at the dining table. The plates are pretty. There is a roast chicken, bright salad, warm bread. My mouth waters, and for 1 second I feel like I am back in the old days when we ate together and argued about silly things. I reach for a plate. Melissa's hand lands on the rim before mine. Her smile returns, the icy one. "Before we start," she says, as if holding a meeting, "I want to set a few rules so everything stays comfortable. For everyone." David clears his throat. "Mel." "It's fine," I say softly. "What rules?" She points with the knife toward the kitchen. "From now on, you can eat whatever is left in the fridge after meals. It's easier this way. Less work for me. You know how busy we are." The room tilts a little. I blink. "Leftovers?" "Yes," she says, bright as a sales clerk. "The family eats at the table. You can eat later, when you're hungry. No pressure. It's more practical." David stares at his plate, knife and fork pressed together like he's praying. He does not look at me. He does not say anything. I watch my son disappear behind his silence, the way he used to hide behind the couch when he broke a vase. "Of course," I say after a breath. My voice sounds calm, even to me. Practical. I fold my hands in my lap. They are steady. I will not beg for a chair at a table I set for years with my own money and my own hands. I will not give her that. Dinner turns loud with small talk. Melissa laughs about a neighbor's ugly hedge. David nods and chews. I listen, quiet, and memorize the taste of the air, garlic, pepper, something bitter. When they finish, Melissa stands and gathers the plates. "There's plenty left," she says cheerfully, like a host in a game show. "Help yourself later." I wait until the kitchen hums and the dishwasher clicks. Then I open the fridge. A container sits on the top shelf with a strip of tape. Leftovers. Inside are bones, a scoop of salad with no dressing, 2 slices of bread that are all heel. It is food, yes. Just not a seat. I put the container back. My stomach twists, but I am not hungry anymore. I make tea instead. The kettle's whistle fills the quiet. David walks in, rubbing his neck. He looks tired. "Mom," he starts, "it's just for now. Mel gets stressed in the evenings, and—" "I know," I say. "Don't worry." I pour hot water over the tea bag and breathe in the steam. "Did you finish that report you were working on?" He nods, surprised. We talk about his job, about a client who keeps changing his mind. He relaxes, inch by inch. He almost smiles. Then Melissa calls his name, and he slips away again. "Good night," he says. "We'll figure things out." I carry my tea to the small room and close the door gently. The hallway light leaks under the frame like a blade. I I sit on the bed and take out the blue folder from under my pillow. I do not open it. I only place my hand on the cover and feel the weight of paper and time. I have always kept my documents neat. Nurses know about order. I think of my husband, gone now for years, and how he used to say, "Evelyn, kindness is not weakness." But never confuse the two. I whisper those words into the steam, and the steam carries them up to the ceiling. Later, when the house sleeps, I walk to the kitchen and make a small sandwich with butter and salt. No one sees. I eat it at the counter with the light off, just the moon and the fridge glow. Every bite is careful. Every bite is a promise that I will not break myself to fit into a space made smaller on purpose. Back in my room, I count my pills, set them by the sink, and lay down. The mattress is thin, the springs count my bones. I stare at the shadow of the rack and listen to water running through the pipes, the breathing of a house I know too well. I have painted these walls. I have paid every bill on time. I have planted the tree outside the kitchen window and watched it grow. A laugh bursts from the bedroom down the hall, Melissa's laugh, high and sharp. Then silence again. I close my eyes and tuck the blanket under my shoulders like a mother tucks a child. I let the anger cool into something heavier and more useful. I let it become a plan without words. In the morning I will thank Melissa for the practical rule. I will tell David I slept fine. I will make coffee and pour it into 3 cups, even if I drink mine alone. I will be gentle with my heart and careful with my steps. And I will remember who I am and what is mine. I switch off the phone and the room goes soft. The blue folder rests under my hand, quiet as a secret. I do not open it tonight. There is no need to rush. Some truths are strongest when they arrive like daylight, slow, certain, impossible to ignore. ChatGPT said. The next morning, I woke early. The house was still, the kind of stillness that feels heavy rather than peaceful. I moved slowly, making sure not to wake anyone. I boiled water, poured it into a mug, and sat at the small kitchen table with tea in my hands. Steam rose, soft and kind, as if it was the only thing welcoming me here. The fridge rule played again in my mind. Melissa's smile, David's silence, the container of scraps with tape on top. Leftovers. My chest tightened, but not with sadness this time. It was something sharper, something that told me I needed to keep my eyes open. When Melissa entered the kitchen, she glanced at me as though I were just another piece of furniture. Her silk robe brushed against the floor. "Oh," she said, pouring coffee into her cup. "You're up early." "I've always been an early riser," I replied. She hummed, uninterested. "That's fine. Just make sure not to use too much milk. David likes it for his cereal." She sipped her coffee and scrolled through her phone, already somewhere else. David came in soon after, tie half done, hair still damp. He looked at me and smiled weakly. "Morning, Mom." "Good morning, David." I wanted to say more. I wanted to tell him how his silence cut me deeper than Melissa's words. But he kissed his wife's cheek and hurried out the door before I could even begin. That day passed in small cuts. Melissa asked me to fold laundry but set aside her clothes in a neat pile, as if I wasn't good enough to touch them. She suggested I sweep the porch to get some fresh air. At lunch, she reheated last night's leftovers and placed a plate in front of me without sitting down herself. "You don't mind, do you?" she asked. "We're trying to save." I looked at the tiny scoop of cold rice and the bone of chicken with hardly any meat left. My stomach growled, but I forced a smile. "Of course. Saving is important." She laughed, satisfied, and left the room. I ate slowly, each bite tasting like pride swallowed. By evening, the tension grew worse. I heard Melissa whispering to David in the living room. "She's taking up space. I need my house to feel like my house. You promised me." My heart stopped for a second. Her house? She had no idea. David's voice was low, shaky. "She just needs time. She's my mom." Melissa snapped. "And I'm your wife. Which matters more?" I stood in the hallway, holding my breath, my hands tight around the doorframe. David didn't answer. Silence again, his weapon, his shield, his cowardice. That night, in my room, I pulled the blue folder from under my pillow. I opened it slowly. Inside were neat stacks of papers. The deed to the house, receipts of payments I made, property tax documents in my name. Every line carried my signature, not theirs. I touched the ink with my finger as if to remind myself it was real. This house was mine. Not theirs. Not Melissa's. Mine. I closed the folder and sat very still. The humiliation from the fridge, the cold leftovers, David's silence, all of it sharpened into something clear. They thought I was powerless. They thought age had weakened me. But I had built my life on careful steps, discipline, and foresight. Melissa might have control over David, but she would never own me. The next morning, Melissa placed another plastic container in front of me. Cold potatoes, overcooked beans. She smiled wide. Don't forget, the fridge is yours. She laughed at her own joke, sipping her coffee like a queen. I said nothing. I ate quietly, nodding, letting her think she had won. But when she turned her back, I stood up straighter. I could almost feel my husband's voice in the air. Kindness is not weakness. But never confuse the two. I went to my room, picked up the phone, and called Mr. Reynolds, the lawyer who had handled the house purchase years ago. My voice was calm. I need you to prepare an eviction notice, I said. He paused, surprised. Mrs. Harper, are you certain? Yes, I whispered, though it came out steady. I gave them respect. They gave me humiliation. It ends now. We agreed to meet the next day. When I hung up, I sat on the edge of the bed and exhaled for the first time in days. The weight of silence, of disrespect, of being pushed aside, it all shifted. For the first time since I moved in, I did not feel like a burden. I felt like the owner, because that is what I was. That evening, Melissa laughed again as she scraped the plates into the trash. Plenty left in the fridge, Evelyn, she said sweetly. David looked down, guilt in his eyes, but said nothing. I stared at them both. My son, too weak to speak. His wife, too proud to see her own fragility. They thought I would always sit quietly in the small room by the laundry, eating scraps and whispering gratitude. But as I drank my tea in silence, I knew something they didn't. Tomorrow, their world would begin to crack. I woke before the sun and dressed in quiet clothes. The city was gray and soft outside the window. I made tea and waited for the clock to reach 9. When it did, I took the blue folder, put it in my bag, and called a taxi. I left a note on the counter. Doctor appointment. Back by noon. It was not a lie. I was taking care of my health, just a different part of it. Mr. Reynolds met me in his small office with neat stacks of files and a tired plant by the window. He looked exactly the same as the day he handed me the keys years ago. Calm, careful, not easily pushed. I gave him the folder. He read quickly, nodding to himself, then looked up. You're the sole owner, he said. No transfers, no liens. If you want to end their stay, we can serve a notice to vacate. How long? I asked. That depends on local rules, he said. But we can set a clear date. I'll draft it. We'll also put in writing that all utilities and accounts are in your name. No one can make decisions over you in your own house. I felt a strange lightness in my ribs. Not joy. Not revenge. Just air finally moving. Do it, I said. He typed, printed, and slid the pages to me. I read every line. Names, dates, terms. Respectful, firm. Nothing cruel. I signed with a steady hand. He made copies and called a courier. Noon delivery, he said. Would you like me to be present? I shook my head. No. I will be there. The taxi back felt shorter. On the way, I stopped at a small bakery. I bought a warm loaf and a jar of jam. I did not feel like sharing, but I also did not feel like being petty. Bread is bread. It feeds. I placed the bag on my lap and watched the houses roll by, front yards with tired roses, cars with sun-faded hoods, a life I knew like my own hands. When I reached the house, Melissa was in the kitchen in leggings and a high ponytail, video playing on her phone. She barely glanced up. Oh, you're back. There's soup in the fridge. Leftovers. I see, I said. I put the bread on the counter. She sniffed it and smiled like she had baked it herself. At 11:58, the doorbell rang. A clean knock, firm, not friendly. Melissa called, David. Can you get it? He was working from home that morning, headphones on at the dining table. He looked at me, I looked back. He stood and opened the door. The courier asked for me by name. Mrs. Evelyn Harper? His voice was neutral. I stepped forward. That's me. He handed me the envelope and asked for a signature. My fingers did not shake. I signed. He left. I turned to them. Melissa's smile was already fading. David looked confused, then worried. I opened the envelope, checked the contents, then placed the top copy on the dining table between the salt and the napkin holder. What's that? Melissa asked, light but sharp. Please read, I said. She picked it up, skimmed, then slowed, then read every word. Color drained from her face, then rushed back too fast. This is a joke, she said. You can't evict us. This is our home. It is my home, I said calm. You have been my guests. That notice sets a date for you to leave. You have time. You will not be put on the street today. But you will not speak to me the way you did again, not in this house. David took the paper from her and read it too. His mouth opened and closed. He looked at me with the same eyes he had when he was little and broke his father's watch. Mom, he said, why didn't you tell me? I tried to raise you to be kind without being told, I said softly. Yesterday you watched me be pushed aside, and you said nothing. He sunk into a chair. Melissa slammed the paper down. You're punishing us because you don't want to eat leftovers? That is ridiculous. No, I said. I am correcting a boundary you broke. From now until the day you leave, there are new rules. We will eat at the same table, or we will not eat together at all. No more fridge rule. No more small room jokes. No more whispering that this is your house when it is not. Melissa laughed once, high and false. We'll see about that. David, say something. He rubbed his forehead. Mel, can we talk in the bedroom? No, I said, still calm. We can talk here like adults. The notice is legal. I will not change it. But I am not your enemy. You can leave with dignity. There is time to find a place. I slid a second copy toward them. Everything is written. If you have questions, Mr. Reynolds can answer them. Melissa scanned the page again, then pushed the paper away like it might burn her. You waited, she said, eyes narrowing. You watched. You planned. I listened, I said. To your words. To his silence. To my own heart. Planning came after. It was quiet for a long beat. The kitchen clock clicked. Somewhere outside, a dog barked. David finally spoke, voice small. Mom, I'm sorry. Thank you, I said. That matters. He reached for the bread bag like he suddenly needed to do something with his hands. He tore the loaf and passed a piece to me without thinking. For a second, we were just people in a kitchen again. Melissa stared at him as if he had chosen a side with that small, ordinary act. She stood, chair screeching against tile. Fine, she said. You want respect? You'll get silence instead. She stormed down the hall and slammed the bedroom door. David flinched. I'll talk to her, he said. I'll make her understand. You cannot make someone understand what they refuse to see, I said gently. But you can refuse to help them blind themselves. I paused. You have a deadline. Use it well. He nodded, eyes wet, then wiped them fast like a boy. He took the papers and went after her. I cleaned the counter because that is what my hands do when my heart is too loud. I put half the bread in a bag for later and left the other half on a plate with a knife and the jam. I set 3 cups on the table. The house felt different now, not lighter, not heavier, truer. Walls remember how they are treated. So do people. Later, Melissa came out to make a call, voice low and fast. I caught pieces, short notice. My mother's sofa. 2 weeks, maybe 3. Her face was tight. She did not look at me. I did not interrupt. David returned, hollow-eyed. Mom, he whispered, I didn't know the bills were all in your name. Of course they are, I said. I bought this house. I paid for it. I asked you to for nothing. I let that sit. I will not ask again. He looked at the floor and nodded. Evening came. No one announced dinner. No one said leftovers. I made soup from the bones she would have thrown away, added fresh onions and a potato, and sat at the table with a proper bowl, a spoon, and the bread. I ate slowly. The steam rose and warmed my face. David hovered, unsure. Can I? Yes, I said, and slid another bowl to him. Sit. We ate in quiet, 2 people who had survived something small and terrible. The bedroom door stayed closed. When I washed the dishes, I looked at my hands in the water, wrinkled, strong, steady. I dried them and touched the blue folder on the shelf. I did not need to open it again. The words already lived in the house now. They had weight. They had shape. The clock hit 10. I turned off the kitchen light and stood for a moment in the dark, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. Yesterday, that sound had felt like a lock. Tonight, it sounded like my own heartbeat, measured and sure. Tomorrow would be louder. People fight when they feel a floor move. But the floor had not moved. It had only told the truth about who it belonged to. Morning came with a hard quiet. No dishes clinked. No music. The house held its breath like it knew something had shifted. I washed my face, tied back my hair, and made breakfast, eggs, toast, sliced fruit. I set 3 plates at the table. No speech, no drama. Just plates. Melissa walked in, saw the table, and smirked. We won't be eating with you, she said, reaching for her coffee mug. We're busy. David paused behind her, eyes on the plates, hungry in a way that had nothing to do with food. He opened his mouth, closed it, then followed her down the hall. I sat and ate my portion while the eggs were warm. I wrapped the other plates lightly to keep the heat. By 9, I began my calls. Not revenge, housekeeping. I confirmed the utilities were already in my name. I removed guest access from the home delivery account I had set up years ago when they first moved in, and I wanted to help. The card on file was mine. I took it off. I labeled shelves in the pantry, shared and personal. I placed a small note on the fridge. We eat together at the table, or we don't call it a meal. At 10, Melissa came storming out, phone in hand. Why did the grocery order fail? She snapped. It says no valid payment. Did you mess with it? It was my card, I said plainly. I removed it. You can add yours. She stared like I had spoken a foreign language. You can't do that. We need food. Yes, I said, and you're adults. Add your card. Her laugh was high and thin. Fine. We'll order takeout. She tapped furiously, then cursed. Delivery minimum, whatever. David. He came out, already apologizing with his eyes. Mel, let's just make something. Make what? She shot back, flinging open cabinets. You turned the pantry into a museum. She held up the note and shook it. Shared? Personal? Who do you think you are? The owner, I said steady. She slammed the door so hard the spice jars rattled. This is petty. All because you didn't want leftovers. I looked at her, not unkind. All because I will not be treated like leftovers. For lunch, I reheated the eggs and toast I had saved. I sat at the table and ate. David hovered again. Mom, he said, voice low, can I? Sit, I said, sliding the plate toward him. He did. He ate fast, then slower, then carefully like he remembered something from childhood. He whispered, I'm sorry. It wasn't a performance. It was a crack in a wall. Melissa watched from the doorway, arms crossed. So this is how it's going to be? You'll feed him and starve me. I offered 3 plates, I said, meeting her eyes. You refused the chair. She turned away, called her mother, and spoke in quick, angry sentences. I heard temporary, a week, maybe 2. When she returned, her decision was a storm she wore like perfume. I'm leaving tonight, she announced. I won't be bullied in my own home. David flinched. Mel, pack, she said. If she wants us out, we go now. He looked at me. I said nothing. Deadlines are clean, but choice is cleaner. He followed her to the bedroom, and drawers opened and shut like doors in a bad dream. An hour later, Melissa dragged 2 suitcases down the hall. She stopped at the kitchen doorway and looked at the table set for one. Enjoy your throne, she said. One day you'll be old and alone. I am already old, I said. I am not alone. She scoffed, yanked the handle, and left without looking back. The door thudded closed, the house exhaled. David returned without a suitcase. He stood there, wringing his hands. She's going to her mother's, he said, as if I hadn't heard. She wants me to come. And what do you want? I asked. He sank into the chair and stared at the wood grain. I want to stop being ashamed of myself every time I look at you. His voice broke. I didn't protect you. I let her talk to you like that. I told myself I was keeping peace. I was just keeping quiet. I poured him water and waited. He drank, wiped his face with his sleeve, and nodded to himself. I'll find a place, he said. Small. I'll move out before the date. I'll start over. If you let me, I'll come for dinner once a week. I'll bring the groceries and I'll cook. I don't want you to forgive me because I'm your son. I want to earn it. Something unclenched in my chest. That, I said, sounds like a man, not a boy hiding behind a louder voice. He laughed once, sad and grateful. I deserved that. In the afternoon, I made a simple stew. The smell filled the house, warm and honest. I set 2 bowls, and we ate in a quiet that wasn't heavy anymore. Between spoonfuls, he told me about a studio he'd seen online, about a budget he could actually keep, about calling his boss for extra shifts. Logic, not excuses. Plans, not promises. That evening, he packed a small bag, clothes for a few days, his laptop, a framed photo of us from a long-ago summer when everything tasted like salt and sunlight. At the door, he hugged me the way he did as a child, full no flinch. Thank you for not screaming, he said. Thank you for being strong. Thank you for choosing to be too, I said. After he left, the house was quiet in a new way. Not empty, clear. I washed the bowls, wiped the table, then walked to the small room by the laundry. I took the folded blanket and replaced it with a soft quilt. I added a lamp, a plant, a small stack of books. A room can be kind if someone decides it should be. 2 weeks later, after they had both moved out and the paperwork had caught up with the facts of our lives, I met a young tenant, a teacher starting her first job in the city. She walked through the kitchen like it was sacred, speaking softly, asking where to put her mugs. Respect is a language, and she was fluent. We signed a simple agreement with clear rules. We cooked dinner together that night. She washed, I dried. We ate at the table. David kept his word. On Thursdays, he arrived with groceries and sleeves rolled up. He learned my stew, then taught me his quick pasta. He brought stories from his small place. The leaky faucet he fixed himself. The first night he slept without guilt. We did not speak much about Melissa. We did not need to. He had stopped choosing silence. One Sunday, he looked at me across our plates. You know, he said, I used to think this house made me safe. Now I know it was you. And I acted like the house could replace that. I reached across and squeezed his hand. Houses are walls and roofs, I said. Safety is a person who won't let you be less than you are. He nodded, eyes bright. That night, after he left, I sat at my table with a warm plate and a small glass of tea. I thought of the first evening here, the leftovers, the cold container, the taste of shame. I thought of the knock at noon, the papers, the steady pen. I thought of a simple rule that turned out to be a line in the sand. They thought I would cry. The very next day, they had nothing to eat, not because I starved them, but because cruelty has a way of emptying its own plates. Respect filled mine. And as I took my last bite, I realized the meal I had served was not revenge. It was boundaries, hot, simple, honest, and they were enough.